This Soonerscoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. Don't miss a moment on or off the field. Make every day a highlight with LASIK at Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIK.
Hello and welcome back. Edward Osovich, George Stoya here from the Soonerscoop.com studios on Campus Quarter. Welcome back to the Soonerscoop.com YouTube channel. Another Monday and a recruiting report ahead. We'll be joined by Josh McCuistion to talk about the commitment of 2027 quarterback Peyton Houston. He announces on Monday he is committed to LSU. OU misses out. What's next for Oklahoma at quarterback in 2027? And speaking of quarterbacks, Josh went down and saw a 2026 quarterback commit, Bowe Bentley, over the weekend, as well as 2028 linebacker target, we shall say, Braden Bonik. So we'll get Josh McCuistion in here for the recruiting report as soon as we tell you about Home Field Apparel. Our good friends over at Home Field Apparel, the premium collegiate apparel brand based out of Indianapolis. Comfortable, officially licensed apparel with vintage college designs, as you see on the screen in front of you. And I would be lying if I said we didn't see a Home Field Apparel performance on Saturday up in Philadelphia. They had the pop-up as well in Philadelphia while we were up there. Plenty of fans, it looked like Oklahoma fans, went by because there was a ton of, oh my God, I have not seen that before. The 1988 Final Four Oklahoma shooting shirt. If Porter Moser gets the team some shooting shirts that look like that going into this season, wow, I can almost guarantee you that the season will end in the Final Four. Very, very good looking. All you got to do is go to homefieldapparel.com. As we have told you here time and time again, homefieldapparel.com if you want to pick up a 1988 Final Four shooting shirt that is very clean, very sick. Oklahoma should think about going back to those. Thank you to Home Field Apparel based out of Indianapolis. All right, let's bring in Josh McCuistion for today's recruiting report. He was busy over the weekend checking out a number of Oklahoma, I guess, a commit as well as a target. We'll get to them here in a second, though, because the news on Monday, Peyton Houston makes his announcement after an official visit to Baton Rouge over the weekend. He is a LSU Tiger. I don't know why I always want to say Bayou Bengal. Josh McCuistion, welcome in. Let's start here, though. Peyton Houston, he announces, we talked about it last week, there was always kind of that looming thought that was the in-state kid going to go play for the Bayou Bengals, and it certainly turns out that case as he makes his commitment on Monday.
Yeah, I think last week I termed it a puncher's chance for LSU, and that's kind of what this looks like. I know, talking to some people, I think OU's very surprised at how this played out. I think they really thought when he left Norman for his unofficial visit for the Michigan weekend that the job wasn't done, but they felt like it was really close. And all through the week, the communication stayed up, everything seemed good. I really think it was kind of until probably yesterday mid-afternoon where there was like, oh, this may not go our way. Guys, we've seen this so many times. I mean, Dominic McKinley a few years ago was a guy we talked a lot about on the show here. This is a state that I don't think there's a apt comparison to. Like, as much as we talked for years about Texas kids going to UT or A&M and how much it means to them to play for the in-state schools, it's nothing compared to LSU. And one of the best quotes ever, it's something, I've heard Barton Simmons say, who's now, Vandy's general manager, is half the state is the Tigers for their nickname, and they're almost all purple and gold. Like, it's just not coincidence for the high school teams. There's so much purple and gold. There's so many Tigers. It's just kind of the deal, and I don't know of another way to say that. So I am a little surprised that it played out the way it did, because for so long, LSU didn't seem part of this equation, guys. When I would talk to you about Peyton Houston, LSU didn't come up because they didn't come up with anybody that I talked to about him. So, again, you wonder if this was kind of under the hat the whole time. I don't think so, though. The thing I've seen from Ben Arbuckle and their staff, they read this stuff pretty well. They're not, I've talked before about maybe at times some OU staffers through the years not always being good about recognizing danger when it was there. And I don't think that's the case here. I think this is a legitimate kind of out of left field turn, because for a long time, LSU did not treat Peyton Houston like a priority.
Josh, before we get into some of the names that Oklahoma might pivot to Is there a chance Oklahoma continues to recruit Peyton Houston? Do they try to stay in contact with him? Obviously, he's only a 2027 kid, so you still got some time if you wanted to. Is Oklahoma interested in continuing to recruit him?
I would also say, just to add on that, they shouldn't feel bad if that were to be the case, because obviously you see 2026 where you had the Bowe Bentley situation where he ends up at Oklahoma spurning LSU. So, I mean, everybody's going to continue recruiting, Josh.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, I can't remember if it was on the pod. It was somewhere I said, like, this could absolutely end up being in the reverse of the Bowe Bentley situation, where LSU felt really good about Bowe Bentley when he left for his official visit back in June, and then the kid ends up picking Oklahoma. That's basically what played out here, just an absolute reversal for LSU. I think Oklahoma would continue to recruit Peyton. I think it's very much a situation where they're going to, like, he's going to need to reach out and show there's some interest there because, again, like, and it's not that there's any hard feelings. Recruiting is recruiting. All the coaches get it. It's not like that. But, guys, Oklahoma's having to go basically to square one because they felt so good about Peyton Houston and had made him their priority. They hadn't done a lot of groundwork with a lot of other guys. Like, they thought they were going to get him. So now to kind of pivot, like George said, we'll talk about some of the names, that could be possible. Oklahoma's got to start over. So to spend that time on him again, he's going to have to meet them in the middle a little bit, in my opinion. Like, I think he would have to show, I'm committed. I want to make sure, that kind of thing. Because, guys, he was at that LSU-Florida game this weekend. I don't know what Garrett Nussmeier, a fourth-year player, who I happen to like a lot, but I don't know what he showed you in that game that says, man, that's what I want to do. I want to be part of that because LSU was a mess offensively. They were just less of a mess than Florida was.
I didn't get that feeling after watching Brian Kelly's press conference on Saturday evening. I thought everything was fine. They could run the ball. Don't worry about it.
They won, Eddie. That's all that matters.
They
won, right?
And they're 17-1 at night, which I thought was one of the most awesome statements of all time.
That's an insane person.
Brian Kelly, certainly a intriguing character in the world of college football.
The next time he shows up and bangs a table, somebody should be like, you're 17-1 at night, coach. It's all fine, and see how he responds to that. Something tells me it will be still pissed off, but just in an entirely different way.
Don't worry about it. They can run the ball. Did you not see the final possession? Just in terms of moving on now, obviously Ben Arbuckle, they're going to go find somebody in 2027. And to a certain extent, you saw the news today, and I was telling some buddies earlier, it's like, I'm not going to say it's not a big loss, and I'm not going to say that I don't care because that would probably be both lies. But it does seem like there's going to be quarterbacks out there. Obviously, you don't ever know if it's, you're going to end up missing out on a generational prospect, maybe like a Peyton Houston. Maybe he could turn into that one day. But there are other options out there, Josh, just in terms of other names. Who is Oklahoma going to maybe turn their focus to in the 2027 quarterback department?
Yeah, and Eddie, I would say, and again, this is a kind of a funny comparison for multiple reasons, but remember that people thought the sky was falling when OU lost Brock Vandegrift.
Sure.
And ended up with Caleb Williams. So probably, there's still plenty of outcomes where this goes fine. And I'm not, Peyton may end up being a very good player. It's just there's other good quarterbacks to be had out there. There's no obvious guy. There's not that, like, the in-state guy where you say, yep, that's your choice. That's the guy you're going to go after. He's had a huge year, whatever. So you kind of have to look around. And there's not really – the only other offer OU made at any point in 2027 was to Trey Taylor, who's now committed to Nebraska and is a guy that I know Ben Arbuckle went up and saw in person, I think back in the spring. And from that point forward, to my understanding and talking to Trey – OU never really had any further communication. So some people saying like, oh, well, would they go back and check on him? I don't think so. I just don't know if he was seen as a fit for what they want to do. The one guy that has been around, and interestingly enough, another Louisiana guy, is Malachi Ziegler, a guy that I've talked about a few times, saw him at the Under Armour camp in Dallas back in, I think, February. A massive talent. I mean, 6'3", 210 pounds, looks – like he is off, the casting list. Like he looks like what you want a quarterback to look like, has a huge arm. And I know some people in Louisiana, and I think I've said this before on here, that prefer him to Peyton Houston. So, does Oklahoma maybe look there? Yeah, it's possible. But you also have to remember there's a lot of connection he already has with SMU and Rhett Lashley. So that's not a hill that you can just easily climb. There's some other names we can get into, but he's the one that has been on campus before and, I know has shown some affinity for Oklahoma, I guess you'd say.
Do you expect them to start making some offers, Josh, to any of these guys?
What's going to be interesting to me, George, is much like Riley, Ben Arbuckle has kind of been a one-quarterback man. And I know that's funny to say after the whole Bowe Bentley, Jaden O'Neal thing, but I think we can all acknowledge now in hindsight, Bowe Bentley was the guy Ben Arbuckle wanted. Sure. I think we all know that, and that's just kind of the way it went. Will he choose, after Peyton Houston? Because you can miss one and be okay. You miss the second one and you start really having to kind of dig around for the diamond in the rough. You could end up in a tricky spot. So I'm interested to see, does he dig in on one guy and say, okay, this is my guy. This is who I really like. We can get him. We're going full send on him. Or does he make 2 or 3 offers, kind of have some communication and see, okay, this is the guy that I think really fits me, that really suits me. But I do, George. I think I would expect offers to go out within the next 4 to 5 days. I think they're going to go over some tape. They're going to review some stuff. Maybe it pushes to Saturday or Sunday of the week, where they really have a time to both, to sit down, talk to the kid, talk to mom and dad, figure out kind of where they want to prioritize, whether, like I said, whether it's one guy, 2 guys, whatever, and then kind of move forward. But this is quarterback recruiting. We talked about how pivotal Peyton Houston could be if Oklahoma were to land him last week. Well, now you've got to get back on the bus and you've got to get rolling, because 2027, you need a quarterback. You need a guy in that class to help you continue to build what, again, if Oklahoma can continue on their on-field trajectory, 2027 could be a very good class for Oklahoma.
Josh, you mentioned SMU. Just real quick on Malachi Ziegler. He did visit Baylor again, Waco. How big of a threat is Baylor, as well as Mississippi State, who earned their 3rd victory of the weekend, just beat the hell out of Alcorn State?
Well, what I think is the good news for Oklahoma is that he's not so locked in. It's just all SMU all the time. Because If you hear some people talk, that's kind of the impression you get. So for him to still be talking to some other schools seriously, like I said, going to Baylor on his own dime, taking that trip, that's a good sign. That's okay, the door's still open here if you want to kind of walk through it. Now, what's interesting to me about his situation is he's a Louisiana kid. He's going to know why you suddenly picked up interest again. Some guys are going to take that as oh, you didn't think I was as good as him, and it's going to bug them. Now, some guys will be like, well, I'll go prove you wrong. I'm going to come up there and do stuff he wouldn't have done. Or some guys are like, nah, man, these other schools prioritize me. So that's the thing that we can't know yet. And like I said, it'll be interesting to see. Now, the good news is he's far from the only option. It's a good year for quarterback in Texas. I was going over some film earlier today, saw several guys I kind of like, including the guy who, in the state of Texas, guys, is Rival's current #1 quarterback in the country, a kid named Kavion Bryant from Palestine Westwood. OU's done pretty well recruiting in Palestine, Texas, so maybe they want to relive the glory days.
We'll have to get you back in 80s home if that's the case, Josh. Speaking of high school talent in Texas at the quarterback position, they have one in 2026 Oklahoma quarterback commit, Bowe Bentley. You went and saw him on Saturday night against a really, really good program in Gunter. 2 teams that won state championships a year ago. Salina, they win 38-7, the defending state champion in 4A1. And I guess let's just ask you the plain old question. What did you think of seeing Oklahoma quarterback commit Bowe Bentley on Saturday night? He runs for 2 touchdowns and also throws for 1.
Bowe Bentley is what you think he is. Guys, I never saw John Mateer in high school. I've got to think it looked a lot like Bowe Bentley. Just the way he plays, there's a certain ad lib to everything he does where you're just like, okay, if this happens here, it'll break down, and he's okay with that. And at the same time, that play right there, That's just him. He sits back, he reads the play, and he just makes good, quick decisions. Now, he had one bad pick in this game where he just misses a corner, dropping into a short zone, and, the kid steps in front of the ball and picks it off. But through the night, what was interesting to me, guys, and this, could very much apply when you look at the early goings of Oklahoma and Temple last weekend. When Salina went really up-tempo, Gunter could not deal with Bowe Bentley. Whether it was running, whether it was throwing, they had 3 drives where they were just like go, go, go. Whatever they want to call their full-speed tempo, that's what they were doing. And, they walked up and down the field against, like you said, Eddie, a state, defending state champion in the state of Texas in Gunter, who's a really good team and is super well coached themselves. So, again, it's hard to come away with a lot of problems with what I saw on Friday night from Bowe Bentley.
Just to give you a little bit of an idea, Gunter's won 3 consecutive state titles. It's at a smaller division or classification than Salina at 3A, but certainly a really, really good program.
Josh, yes. I wanted to ask you, when you walked away from this, do you see a world where Bowe comes in next year and let's say John Mateer has a great year this year, he's on pace to have a really good year, maybe he goes to the NFL. Is there any scenario that Bowe Bentley could end up playing for Oklahoma some next year?
I absolutely think that's possible. I really do. This is a kid. So much of what I see when I see young quarterbacks is, okay, he's a really good athlete. He's got a big arm, but he doesn't have a lot of nuance. Bowe Bentley, he can drop it with some touch. He can layer it in on some, on some various throws. He was throwing to different depths, and there were times he's dropping it over a corner and that kind of stuff. And I know, like I said, he had a bad pick, but what I liked is he sometimes I see quarterbacks that they want to spread it around, they want to do something. He had a mismatch with his tight end who's committed to Pitt. It's a good player, a kid named Wyatt Villarreal, and when he got matchups he liked, he just went to the kid over and over and over again. And, that's kind of an NFL mentality. This is Villarreal right here making the play. Big old strong kid. And I like the mentality he had. And I think that is something that will serve him well. But here, drops the snap, goes and picks up 4 or 5 yards, sets him up in second and short on that little run there. But the thing that I will say, guys, that I probably came away most impressed with, he is a better athlete than you think he is. And I thought he was a good athlete coming in. He can really run. When he gets in open space, you're like, oh, okay, this is, I thought maybe a 4.7 guy. He's high 4.5s, low 4.6s. He can really, really run.
I would imagine that that will be the last time that you see Bowe Bentley this season. Salina probably, not even probably, take that away. Salina's destined for another deep run in the state Texas high school playoffs coming up this season as the defending champion in 4A Division I. Moving over to linebacker, or just in closing, anything else with Bowe Bentley from Friday night? Certainly impressive. You can watch the entire highlights on SoonerScoop.com's editorial page.
Well, and Eddie, you read me well. If you get a chance to go watch Bowe Bentley at Salina, the game is going to be incredible. Watch the game. Hang out for 30 minutes after the game and watch the life this kid leads and how well he does it. Guys, I don't think I've ever waited that long for an interview. And as I'm telling you this, Eddie, I realize I haven't sent you the audio of the interview I was supposed to.
I was just wondering, am I an idiot?
Nope. This is on me. The lights had gone out. He stayed so long, the stadium lights were off, so I couldn't do a video interview. So we just recorded one. But guys, he signed at least a dozen autographs while I'm sitting there, taking pictures with random moms and dads, and everybody just wants to be around. It is, guys, it's Lance Harbor at West Canaan.
I was gonna say
from that's what it made me think of. He is just. I asked him during the interview, I was like, did you turn any water into wine up there? He really is just almost like a deity to these people. And it's crazy. But talking to him afterward, I was like, what's that like being a 17-year-old kid? And he was like, it's different, but all this town has done for me and blah, blah, blah. It's the least I can do. it didn't feel like a rehearsed answer. It felt like a good kid just being like, yeah, man. Like he was playing catch with a couple of little kids to the point his dad finally had to like point him out and be like, Bo, this man's waiting to talk to you. And so he comes down and talks to me. And again, it was all good, but it just, as long as I've covered high school football, I don't think I've seen anything like that. The quarterback at a program like Salina and how much it means to that entire town.
For the viewers out there too, Salina's just, I feel like maybe this is an assumption. It's one of the stereotypical high school football towns in the state of Texas that has an outstanding tradition, program, everything on top of it. And when you're on the cover of Dave Campbell's high school football down there, I would imagine it all kind of goes hand in hand with what Bowe Bentley is going through there as a senior at Salina High School, destined for a second consecutive state championship. So very good. You can watch the interview, as Josh talked about, on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. Let's go over the defensive side of the ball a little bit further down south, closer to you, Josh, down in the Houston area. I think that's right, isn't it? Missouri City, Texas. Ridgepoint High School, 2028 Oklahoma linebacker offer, Braden Bonik. What'd you think of seeing Ridgepoint in action over the weekend?
Well, Eddie, we talk about Salina and Gunter being two good ones.
Yeah.
This is Ridgepoint and Bridgeland. And Bridgeland was, that's where Ryan Foje played last year. They were a regional finalist. Actually gave Duncanville a pretty good game in the state quarters. So that's a good program. And I mean, Ridgepoint just went out and massacred them. I think it was 31-3 was the final or something like that. I can't quite remember. But I mean, it was never in doubt from basically the kickoff of the second half, like that you knew Ridgepoint was going to win this game. With Braden Bonnik, what I see are the physical tools. And I want to be clear, people that watch this and are like, oh, I don't know. You have to remember, he only played about half of their defensive snaps because Ridgepoint has so much depth in their front seven. They basically just cycle through a two deep. And like some guys get a couple series and then a couple guys get a different series. And it's not just Braden that is a Division I prospect. Robert Smith's two sons play for Ridgepoint. A guy that played in the NFL for a long time. He's got twin sons, Robert and Romer. They're also in there. They've got Division I offers, and they cycle out on the defensive line. So this is just something Ridgepoint does. But when you watch him, again, the movement skills, the athleticism, like this is a kid that has competed in like junior nationals, like the junior Olympics and stuff, in track. So he is a high-end athlete at about 6'1" and 200 pounds and can really, really run. Like, so there are tools here that are far beyond like what you're watching on tape because it's not the big explosive hits and all that kind of stuff. They didn't do a lot with him. They didn't go at him very much. And again, you can just watch him move around in space and you see how fluid and easy it all is for him.
Josh, I know it's very early in his recruitment, but what are some of the other schools to maybe watch with him?
Yeah, one of the interesting things about him is Braden's dad actually played at Oklahoma State under Jimmy Johnson. So he has some ties. And I honestly, I didn't know that until this conversation. And he said, but my dad, he kind of likes the idea of me at Oklahoma. He thinks it really suits me and that kind of stuff. So I don't think it's a deal where, I got to battle the Oklahoma State thing. I think he's pretty open to the idea. Now, what is also interesting is because of his dad's background, and his dad is a agent that works with a lot of coaches and things like that. So, they're not doing a lot of travel. Like I kind of asked him, like you're going to go on some visits, and he's like, my dad just tells me I don't really need to do that stuff because if I do the right stuff on tape, schools will come after me. I'll worry about that then. So, he didn't give me a real good read on some of those things, but I do think this is the kind of guy that fans will love because he's not going to be the guy with, 7 million pictures on Instagram from every visit he ever took and that kind of stuff. He is a kind of an old school kid and I think is just a guy that is going to care about what the situation he's walking into looks like and, how do they develop players, and this is a guy, I can't state it highly enough how much Oklahoma likes this guy. People will watch this tape and be like, I didn't see much. He didn't do a lot. He came to OU's camp. They've raved about him ever since. Like this is there's a possibility that Brandon Hall and Wes Goodwin, outside linebackers and safeties, there may be some sort of fight to figure out who gets to recruit this kid, but they both very much like him.
Josh, do you get a sense, and maybe this is still a little too early to ask, but we talked for so many months here, it seems like during the offseason, about Oklahoma building momentum in the recruiting realm. With the first 3 weeks and what Oklahoma's put on tape from a defensive perspective, as you start talking to more 27, 28 guys, are they starting to get that reputation that, they not only have Brent Venables and company turn this thing around, but this is a program that is starting to put something on the field that guys would want to be a part of from a defensive perspective?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, and so much of that, this last week, Temple, no, that doesn't do it. I mean,
sure,
that's not moving the needle, but that Michigan game, it really did. It bought a lot of currency with these guys where they're talking about, this is, because guys, you have to remember, OU and where they've been, I mean, so long, we think about that run of back-to-back-to-back, all those, Big 12 titles. The last time OU won a conference title, most of these guys that you're talking about 27, 28, they weren't even in double digits yet. They were 8, 9 years old. Like, they don't remember that stuff. So, it's kind of like my older brother told me about this Oklahoma. That's almost the vibe you get when you talk to some of these guys. So I think there is absolutely some currency being built up. And guys, I can't get over how the chips are kind of falling for Oklahoma right now with some of these upcoming opponents. And I know you guys talked about that a little bit in the postgame pod, but like you look at Auburn, okay, that's a real test. We'll see what goes there. Then OU, should walk through Kent State. Guys, Texas, I thought Oklahoma was going to rise to Texas's level. It may have to be the other way around. Like, I mean, what they're doing on offense is just bad. So I am very intrigued to see what that looks like. And if you go get a win like that, the math changes even beyond the Michigan win, beyond the Auburn win. That is, you're beating a two-time back-to-back national semifinalist and doing it on a neutral field. Like there's just a lot that goes into. And then you start talking about what OU could accomplish at the end of this year. So that is I think kids, long-winded Josh as always, but I do. I think there's some credibility in what these coaches are saying. And guys, we talked about this in the summer. There was this quiet confidence, like we're not going to rush, we're not going to do too much. Even in 2026, we're not going to go offer a bunch of new kids after we missed out on some guys, that took official visits and maybe went other places in the summer. Guys, we've talked about Florida being a place so you could pick some people. Davian Gross, Caden Hall, some of those names. I wouldn't rule any of that out. I think that's all still in play.
Josh, we talked a lot about the Michigan week and how big of a recruiting weekend it was. How big of a recruiting weekend is this one coming up with Auburn? I know there's maybe some interesting names going to be in town.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have your first official visits of the season. I'm expecting Jacob Curry, the linebacker from Florida. He should be in. Braden Allen, the wide receiver from Louisiana. He should also be on campus. Beyond that, I think you're going to see, Bowe Bentley will probably be there. Bowe's clearly making a real effort to be around, and that was something he and I talked about in that interview. Again, sorry, Eddie. Was, him being around a lot of the players and really making an effort to kind of build connections with these guys. So a chance to be there with, a receiver, a linebacker that OU clearly likes a lot. I think those are all things that make a lot of sense. I don't know what it's going to look like from like 2027 and 2028. It's certainly not going to match Michigan. I talked about this last week. Michigan was what they built to through the whole summer. Like they were working on that all summer long. This is going to be the big one. Auburn, I think they'll get back to what we're used to seeing, where it's more like a, 25 to 35 kind of man visit list, where it's a little more manageable for the staff. You can really have some one-on-one time. So maybe this is more of a, even some guys that came a couple weeks ago. Maybe it's a situation where you have some guys that Oklahoma really wants Brent Venables to have a chance to sit down and talk with a guy or that kind of stuff. So I'd keep an eye on that. But I don't have I have maybe 6 or 7 guys confirmed. That'll obviously grow through the week. But I think this is going to be a lot about official visitors and maybe a more kind of narrowed focus on some 27 and 28 guys.
Well, that kind of goes right in my face of what I was going to ask you. But somebody that was on campus and somebody in the 2026 class you wrote about on Sunday, Daniel McMorris. Where is Oklahoma and Daniel McMorris, the Norman North offensive tackle that was previously committed to Minnesota?
There was obviously a little scare on Sunday for OU fans when word got out that Texas Tech had picked up an offensive line commitment. It ended up being Bryce Gilmore from Prosper, who had been, I believe, committed to Arkansas. And it's a guy I like as well. I know you had some interest in early on, but I think that probably buys Oklahoma a little time. Not to say that Texas Tech doesn't still want Daniel McMorris. They do. But I think it gives them a little time to kind of build into it. And from what I talked to Daniel about from his visit when he came for the Michigan weekend, I'm impressed with how positive he has remained. Like, because there have been multiple times over the last 6 months where it sounded like an offer might happen or it was getting close, or at the very least he thought it was close. And it just hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. What I do find interesting is he mentioned in the story that you're talking about, Eddie, that his trainer, former OU offensive lineman Brandon Braxton, had kind of gotten the impression as well that an offer could be coming like in the next few days. Now, that time period has passed, but Brandon's a guy that's been around. He knows the game. Like I feel like OU's giving some signals that this could happen. I think it's just going to be a little bit of time. And I think, again, the two questions that remain, how much, NIL needs to be done here is going to be a factor. It just is. And secondarily, is Daniel a guy that's going to be willing to wait a couple years? Because at a place like Oklahoma, with the guys they recruit, a guy like Michael Fasusi at left tackle, or any of these other guys you want to talk about, it's going to be a few years before Daniel McMorris is ready to play at the level OU needs him to play at. Is he going to invest in that way? And if so, if those two questions got answered in the positive, again, I think Oklahoma will probably end up offering Daniel McMorris.
Very interesting. Something to watch here in the coming weeks and maybe possibly the next couple of months here leading into December and the early signing period or the start. I guess that is in December. I don't know why I can't get that through my head.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
figure it out.
F me, right? It's Monday. We had a big travel day yesterday, too.
Yeah.
All right. Very good, Josh. Thank you. You can watch obviously the interview, as we talked about, with Bowe Bentley, Oklahoma quarterback commit in the 2026 class, and then continued coverage going into a big weekend on the actual playing field for the Oklahoma football team with Auburn coming into town. We'll have a visitor list, all that kind of good stuff on the Crimson Corner. Good time to join SoonerScoop.com. Plenty of coverage to come as Jackson Arnold makes his return to Norman. That's going to do it for today's recruiting report. For Josh and George, I'm Eddie. We'll see you back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.